All right, I'm sure you've heard of her, Candy Valentino, best-selling author. She was also interviewed by Ed Milet on the Ed Milet Show. I had the honor of having her on the Austin Zaback Show. Here's another clip of her I really just wanted to share with you. And we talk about taking that next step, right? Just believing in yourself, and just a bunch of really cool mindset stuff that I haven't heard very many times. She has a really unique way of putting it. Let's jump into the clip.
If you are trying to do this next thing, you want to take on another investment, you want to start a company, whatever it is, you want to get a relationship, people think, oh my gosh, I can't do this. But if you look back at all of the things you've done, all of the childhood that you overcame, any mistake that maybe you made that you came out better on the other side, and you remember all of those things and you reflect on them, then why wouldn't you be able to get through this next thing too?
Right.
Like, why wouldn't you be able to accomplish this next thing? Because look at the shit you've already done.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times we don't take that time to look back and reflect. And I think that is really massively valuable.
Wow. I think that is extremely powerful. 100%. I couldn't agree more. And I think, looking at what you've done instead of, we make up all this crap, right, in our brain. And you really got to be careful, I think, to learn how to control your thoughts and really say, well, hold on a minute. That thought is not doing me any good, right?
Right.
I'm going to choose this thought over here, like you're mentioning, right? Because this actually makes sense. I can wrap my brain around that, right?
That's right.
But that over there, like, I don't know where that thought came from, but
That's right.
I don't want to be a part of that, right?
It's like start a business.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's crazy. My everybody has a job. Let me just go have a job. Like any of that stuff, if you have that feeling, it's there for a reason. Like, and even if it ends up being a mountain that you don't climb, there's something that you learned in the journey. Because there's no way that something was placed in front of you when it's ethical and moral and all of that. There's no reason that something wasn't placed in front of you that is at least a reason why you should be considering it.
Yep.
So rather than, it takes the same effort to go towards it than it does to go the other way. So why not just one time, just try to go towards it?
That's powerful.
It's that belief, and I think that it's the belief, and then it's also the action. Because, multi-million-dollar companies are not made on ideas.
Sure.
Ideas are cheap. They're a dime a dozen. It's the implementation and execution of that idea that creates million-dollar businesses, million-dollar life, million-dollar relationships.
Wow.
So having the idea is one thing, but what's the next step to move it forward?
Right.
And how can you implement and execute on that idea and know that you don't have to have it? If I would have known that when I started flipping, okay, well, in 20 years, I'm going to be flipping multi-million-dollar estates, like I would have never done it because I didn't have the belief or the knowledge then.
Too scary.
Way too scary. Yeah. So don't ever look at 10 steps down the road. Just take one.
Wow.
I always say, know the what. Don't worry about the how.
Wow.
If you know the what and you allow the what to drive you, and people always say why, but I feel like it's so cliche now. You got to know the what, and you got to know the purpose of the what. Like, not the purpose of your life. That's another crippling belief that people have. But like, what is the purpose of what you want? Is it going to give you freedom? Is it going to give you flexibility? Is it going to whatever it is? And then don't figure out the how. Just take the next step and be persistent and be resilient. And you'll figure it out as you go.
It's almost like getting in your car at night, and you turn on your navigation and you're going from here to Sedona. Your headlights shine 200 feet in front of you, and the maps tell you the next turn.
Exactly.
Your headlights nor your maps give you the full. You can't see from here to there.
That's right.
And it doesn't tell you all the. Imagine if you dig your maps and it gave you all the directions all at one time. She's like, turn right, turn left, turn right, left, go straight, right. You'd be like, oh my gosh, right?
It's a great analogy.
You'd be able to handle it, you know. So I could not agree more. I love that. You said so. You moved. You had a feeling, right? And coming to Arizona was a feeling. You were with somebody at the time. Mm-hmm. I'd imagine that's not who you're with now.
No, we're still together.
Okay, so that wasn't it. Okay, got it. And so he came with you then?
No.
So walk me through.
This is a crazy, So actually, we'll rewind. So in 2005, I came to Arizona for the first time. By that point, I was traveling all over. So I'd seen a lot because I was about 6 years into the business. Things were successful. I had not quite started the nonprofit yet. So lots of cash, heavy investments. So I was traveling all over, and there was something about the first time I was here. I could not put my finger on it. And at that moment, I wanted to move. Even though I had a super successful company and all of these investments, I saw the real estate market here, I saw the business world here, and I was like, I want to move. At that time, was with a different guy, much smaller view of the world, also had a business, but wanted to stay where we were, didn't want to move. And so I started to rationalize, like, okay, well, that makes sense. That was the first rationalization. That makes sense. had I done that, I have no regrets, and I'm grateful for the path, but I look back and think, had I done that, what I would have accomplished and built in just in a short period of time, even before the crash in 2008, to then be able to pick up and swing on the other side, right? Again, I know that I needed to be where I was for a reason. But when I was like, okay, well, if I can't move here now because of the business, then I will when I exit, because when I started my first business at 19, I did what most people don't do, which was I knew exactly what the business was going to be, and it was going to be something that I exited. Even though I knew no women at that point that ever built and sold a company, I read people doing it, and I was like, well, why can't I? So as opposed to saying like, well, I don't know if I can do that, shift that question and just say, why can't I?
Right.
And that's what I do all the time. Why can't I? So for that, I was like, I'm going to be done by the time I'm 40. So by the time I'm 40, I'm exiting, and I'm going to be able to be retired. I'm going to do what most people won't do right now, so that by the time I'm 40, I can do what most people can't.
Yeah.
And so when I started here for the first time, I was like, I'm going to move here, and I'm going to walk to get my coffee at this one spot that I was at.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Wow. Wow. And so what happened in that time? So because the person you were with at that, long time ago, when you first, saw it here and you wanted to move here, and you said that you remember you kind of minimized you're like, okay, that makes sense. You rationalized it, right?
Rationalized it. Yep.
Then what kind of happened in that relationship, to then you actually like moving here? How did that whole thing play out?
So here's the interesting thing. This is what we don't typically look back, because most times you have to get along your life further in order to have more data. It's like business, right? When you have a business longer, you have more data to be able to look back and see trends and see, oh, okay, well, we made this decision here and that didn't work so well. Most people don't do that in their life.
Wow.
But if you look back at the data of your life, and oftentimes it's tough until you get late 20s, early 30s to at least have enough data to see trends. When I look back, it's almost like everything from that decision on, I started doing the same thing. I started giving a little more. I started not showing up quite as much. And it created this chain of events. Now, granted, a lot of beautiful things came, other businesses came, other real estate investments came. But I do see something now that I look back at the data, that a lot of things went a little bit awry from that point on.
Wow.
Now, fast forward, I did exactly what I said. Sold and exited that last company when I was 19, or when I was 39, 40-ish, somewhere, but it was right before I turned 40. And then was able to move here full time. Now, I was in a different relationship. Sure. So incredible. We get along great. Incredible relationship, super loving, like totally not my experience of other relationships in my life.
Wow.
But knew that I needed to be here. And as scary as that was for him, because I'm sure that it felt like I was leaving him, it was really just me following something that I knew I needed to do. And he has kids, so he's committed to his responsibility of what he has and what he's built. But I also don't think that just because one person has one type of responsibilities that minimizes what you want to do. So he can still be an incredible present father because that's what he committed to. And I committed to not having kids so that I could have ultimate freedom and flexibility whenever I wanted.
Sure.
It's like one isn't more important or more valid than the other. So and thankfully I'm with somebody that understands that, and he's amazing. And so he comes out here every other week.
Wow. And
so he's there with his kids once a week, and he comes out here. So totally weird scenario that I don't know anybody else that has that set up.
Yeah.
But it works.
It works.
And it gives me the ability to grind, because I tend to do that, which is tough for a lot of people in a relationship. I tend to grind, and I can work 12, 16 hours. It's not like I'm trying. It just happens. Like I like it. And then I can, unwind a little bit when he's here and enjoy a little bit. So I think that's the other thing. Like, we don't need to find balance. Like, oftentimes I think it's another stressor. Like, find your purpose, be more fulfilled, like have balance. Like, talk about so much stress to put on yourself. Like, finding your purpose basically is saying to yourself that you don't already have one. So it's not really finding it. It's just developing it. And the only way that you can develop and be more purposeful is to really take more risks, to go in that direction of what you don't know yet. And, just be able to be confident to not have all of it figured out and do it anyways.
Wow.
So I think that's the same thing with balance. You don't have to balance your life. Sometimes our life is, I always say, it's like a 2x4 with buckets, right? Those big Home Depot buckets. It's like sometimes you're more in work bucket. Sometimes you're more in fun bucket, and you just need to balance it out, but always know what the end result you want for your life is so that you can make decisions accordingly.
It's almost like, I think Tony Robbins refers to it as like work-life integration, right? And it's just like, how do I integrate all this? I mean, here's everything that's important to me, and I want to do it all.
Yeah.
You know, and like, and the world says, well, you can't do that if you're going to do that.
Right.
And you can't do any of that if you want to do that over there. And it's like, well, why does the world say that? Like, why can't I just do it all?
Yeah.
You know, and figure out how to do it all, right? And so I love that you say that, and it's something I actually really believe in. And I've struggled over the years because people will try to beat into your brain that you're doing it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And you really got to guard that and be like,
Yeah.
well, hold on a minute. Like, where did you get your data from?
And that's the thing, right? Everyone's perspective of their experience. Like, even I look at my dad. It wasn't that my dad was trying to discourage me like consciously.
Right.
What it was his view of the world. And he was, most times when people are they're trying to protect you,
Sure.
to guard you, for you to not make mistakes. So it's really not with malice and ill intent, but it's like, oh no, you have to build a business this way.
Right.
Or, oh no, you have to make sure to have fun on the weekends. Like, but that's from your perspective and your view of the world. And your view doesn't necessarily dictate mine. So be okay to chart your own path, to do it your own way. And the only way that you can be okay with that is to also be okay with failing. Like, going all in and being part of hustle culture and then realizing, oh shit, I got burnt out. Like, you have to do that in order to know. I did that. I didn't take a week's vacation for 15 years.
Wow.
Just grinded. And then I thought, I'm going to like have a nervous breakdown, and literally took a month off. And then I was like, okay, maybe I need a little balance, but everybody's different. It's like someone could look at me and be like, oh, she's part of hustle culture. No, this is the way I'm wired.
Sure.
If I purposefully sat on a couch and did nothing, I would drive myself crazy just because you think I need to relax on the weekends.
Right.
You know, and and for somebody else, it may be they can't work 12, 16 hours in a day, and that's okay for them. Just know who you are and what you want, and then build your business or your life accordingly.
I love that. I think that more people need to talk about that, you know, and I think that you're so right about just figuring it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And you're not judging other people, and you don't allow judgment from others.
That's
it's
right.
just like, hey, here I am. Here's what I want to do. And you fail along the way, and you figure it out along the way. Like you said, you did your 15 years, and then you took a step back, and you're like, whoa, like I gotta take a break for a minute, right?
Yeah.
But then you came back, and you know, maybe just course corrected by 1%, right? You're like, okay, I was just 1% off here. I'm gonna go like right here. And then that was like, okay, it's a little bit more balanced, right? But to somebody else, you still might be a total workaholic, but it doesn't
100%.
It doesn't matter, because there might be somebody else that thinks you don't work at all.
Exactly.
Elon Musk is like, well, you know.
What the hell are you all doing?
Right.
You know?
I love that, you know, and I think a lot of what we've talked about today, or you've talked about, is it all ties back into building your self-confidence and, and loving yourself and accepting yourself. And so many people, I feel like we live in a world where people don't do that. Everybody just wants to be somebody that they're not, and like chase something that doesn't. I mean, it's just the weirdest world we live in nowadays.
You have to be okay with who you are, but you also have to be okay with who you're not. And I think that's people like, well, I'm okay with this. Okay, but it's also, you have to be okay with who you're not. Like, we live in such an extreme world too. Like, you're either part of hustle culture or you're, you know, like there's no in between. It's like, no, life actually happens in between. That's really the beauty of it all. And I think that's that part with just, you know, we have to make sure that everybody's this or that, and that you don't want to really be fully come who you are. I think that's the greatest fulfillment in life, is to just allow all of those expectations around you to drop and just be like, okay, who am I?